listen there.
Great game. 50 seconds to go. Hurts. Deep shot. Hauled in, Devontae.
Sure.
And before the press conferences even start. I mean, we could talk for 45 minutes just about how atrocious the defense is.
And good morning, everybody, and welcome to Trending in the AM right here on DSM Media Live. As always, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. Football Friday. We're wrapping up another week at Trending in the AM here. We got lots to talk about again today. But before we start the show, before we do the sponsors, before we introduce the players, well, actually, I'll introduce. I'm Phil Stifle, Bearded Knowledge on Twitter. My man, Jason Voorhees at Mustang361 on Twitter. Dude, I got to give a special shout out to everybody that watches this show. We've been doing this show now. I've been doing this morning show for about, 2.5, 3 months now. And it's been a steady, increase and, working really hard. This is my dream. This is my baby, doing a morning show every day. I've even thought about getting it to the point where I was going to do, more than an hour long morning show every day, just because I love doing this so much. I love interacting with everybody. And I love the ability to talk all different sports in the morning. But yesterday, we set a record for views yesterday on Twitter, over 1,800 views between Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, all the outlets combined, almost 1,900 views. I am so thankful and so excited to be able to say that, just to see the growth. And today we might only end up with 200 views. It's very possible. But the fact that we're slowly getting a little bit more rhythm and a little bit more ground and footing with the followers and the listeners and the comments, I just want to shout out and a special thank you to everybody that tunes in and listens to this show. And a special thank you to people like Mark Moscatelli, who's on every Monday, and Jason, who's on 3 to 4 times a week with me. I couldn't do the show without you guys. So thank you to listeners. Thank you to Jason. Super, super, super happy about that yesterday.
Absolutely. That's awesome.
Yeah, but like I said, I couldn't do it without you guys.
Well, yeah, you say that, but like I said, I want to give you a lot of credit because honestly, I remember back about 6 months ago when you came up with the hashtag about not watching radio.
Yeah.
Not watching.
Why I stopped listening to sports talk radio.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Why I stopped listening to sports talk radio. And it's crazy because I had the same exact epiphany around the same time, like where I got to the point where I barely even – occasionally I'll put it on and listen to Ray Didinger. That's about it. Like I can't deal with it. And this show, it's crazy because you're going up against WIP, and I think people would rather definitely – 100% watch this show than listen to any of those freaking clowns.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is with them. But, there's a reason you stop listening to those guys because they just do the same thing over and over again. And they're more, look, 20, 30 years ago, I idolized Angelo and I idolized all those guys and stuff like that. But they never changed their shtick. They're the same. I don't want to talk about bashing them or anything like that.
No,
I want to talk about and focus on us and the fact that DSM Media – make sure you hit subscribe if you're on YouTube. Retweet this show out on Twitter. Follow, share on Facebook. We can't continue to grow the show without the support of the fans and the people that listen on a daily basis. So thank you for listening, but also help us continue to grow. Help us share. Put those comments right up on the screen on YouTube and Facebook, just like this. Where were you 4 years ago today, which we are going to get into in a second here. That's the best way to interact with the show. Today, national calendar. Oh, real quick, our sponsors, Manscaped, the leader in men's grooming products, the GOAT in below the waist maintenance. Make sure you check them out, manscaped.com. Use promo code DSM, the network name DSM at checkout. It gets you 20% off, free shipping, and lets them know that Team DSM sent you. I know there's a lot of networks that have promo codes for Manscaped, but use your favorite network, DSM's promo code at checkout, to let them know that we're taking care of you and taking care of them. All right, so National Calendar Day today. There's a lot of things that are national days of today. We're going to go over them real quickly here. Today is National Hemp Day. Just going to throw that out there. National Homemade Soup Day. I make a lot of homemade soups. Now I'm going to have to make a new one today because of that. Create a Vacuum Day. Thank a Mail Carrier Day. I don't even know what those are. Today is World Cancer Day. So I'm going to mention that, and I'm sure every single person that listening to this show has had someone in their life or family affected by cancer. So I'm going to, just throw that out there. Think of people. Cancer at this point is still a major issue. I lost my father and my grandmother to cancer. My father at a very young 51 years of age. So it has affected everybody in so many different ways. So if you have time, make a small little donation, do whatever. Just support those people that really need it there.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So on that somber more note there, what's up, Mr. Freddie Defo? We're just gonna call you Freddie Defo from here on out.
It's the Feo.
It's Defo. So I kidded my class growing up with his name. We just called him Defo. It was spelled the same way, but that's not how he pronounced it either. But we just called him Defo all the time. So anyway. Today also, it's not a national day, but it's a big moment in Philadelphia history today. 4 years ago today, I'm not sure what you were doing, Jason, but I know what I was doing 4 days ago today. I was celebrating an Eagles Super Bowl victory. And
4 days ago?
4 years ago. I want to not only it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny that, we're celebrating the 4-year anniversary today of the Super Bowl victory. And today, Doug Pederson is being introduced as head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Is it a coincidence? I mean, he interviewed for the job back on December 30th, but they waited till late last night to announce the hiring. I think it's a coincidence that, he's now the head coach. His first day as head coach of the Jaguars is the anniversary of the Super Bowl victory. So first off, before we talk Doug Pederson and his opportunity there, let's talk about Super Bowl Sunday. Let's just, for 5-10 minutes, let's relive what that euphoria was like. I mean, you're 45, I'm 41. We waited our entire lives for this moment to win a Super Bowl. And I don't know about you, but I will be brutally honest with you. When that last second ticked off the clock, I kind of fell to my knees. And my wife, after a second, actually came over and checked and had to make sure I was okay. She actually thought I had a heart attack because I was literally my heart skipped a beat because I just kept thinking, oh, there had to be a flag on the field, or maybe they caught that Hail Mary pass. We're ingrained that bad things happen to Philly, and I couldn't believe that it didn't end in a bad way. So that is like the moment there, like the euphoria set in. I was like, what? Huh? I just couldn't handle that. You know what I mean? Because I'm just not used to those kind of things. So I don't know about you, but where were you 4 years ago today?
Well, dude, first and foremost, you describing that, I just got major chills. And honestly, my whole body was shaking. You just talking about that, because I almost kind of had the similar feeling. I didn't drop to my knees, but I was crying, dude, like a baby. I literally was crying. My dad had to console me. That's how crazy it was. And I don't cry normally, but it was just the emotions of watching that game. And I remember I believe it was probably after the Philly special at that point, for the first part of the game, even though the Eagles were kind of leading the game for most of the game, I didn't have the feeling that we were going to win it. Cause I'm like, man, we're going up against Tom Brady. It's the Patriots. But after that Philly special, I was like, dude, we're winning this game. And even at the point, before the Brandon Graham strip sack, I'm not going to say I called Brandon Graham sack, getting a fumble, but I really had a feeling in my gut that we were going to get a turnover there on that drive. I did. I said it. I was like, Dad, we're going to get a turnover, because obviously it was me and my dad watching it. And obviously that was a special moment, to be with your dad and be able to, witness for the first time ever an Eagles Super Bowl. I mean, yeah.
It's just a weird thing to be able to say that, I mean, like I said, we kind of feel like in Philly, bad things always happen to Philly sports teams, the bad luck. And the fact that, it didn't work out badly for it. I mean, like you said, Tom Brady, we were going to, like you said it, going up against Tom Brady, and, it was a close game. Yes, we led the game until they took I think it was 33-32. They took a lead late in the game, something like that. Until that moment, we were leading, but not by much. So you just kept thinking in your head, it's Tom Brady. It's Tom Brady. He's going to lead this. And then he did lead the comeback. And they took that lead late in the game. And you're like, here we go. It's just Tom Brady beating us again. And the fact that that's not the way it played out, man, that's fantastic. You know, I mean, I can't use any other word. And literally, I can't reiterate enough how when that final Hail Mary was thrown, I literally just kept looking around the field. There's got to be a flag somewhere. There's got to be some miraculous catch. I had to wait literally a good 30 seconds to a minute to realize that the game was officially over at that point because I just didn't believe it. I just didn't. And then that feeling started to set in, and my Facebook memories popped up on Facebook today, and I just took a snapshot of, post game live, and it was just an image of saying we are world champs. And I have that on my phone all the time. And it's like every time that I see that pop up on my memory feed or pop up anywhere on my phone, I'm like, we actually did win a Super Bowl. We did. And it's still, even 4 years later, this is 4 years to the day of us winning that Super Bowl. It still hasn't fully set in.
Dude, you're absolutely spot on. Like, to me, it's like, it's crazy if you look at that team too, and you look back at our roster now, and like so many key players, like, I mean, there's players that were key in that game that are out of the league. I mean, two that come to mind in my mind of the most important players in that specific game, well, actually three. Alshon Jeffrey, who set the tone. Like, Alshon Jeffrey, like that year was exactly what we needed, like in a wide receiver. Like, I mean, he made every play. And to come out and get that first touchdown, like, remember, he jumped up and it was just like almost like bully ball and just came down with the football. And then I remember the other play vividly where it got intercepted, but they were going to Alshon another time. Like, it was, I think, late in that first quarter. And I think it like deflected off him. He was like it was a little bit underthrown. Right. But he was all over the field in that game. So Alshon Jeffrey, and then, obviously, who could forget Corey Clement, makes that one unbelievable play where he's out like a wide out, kind of catches it and then kind of runs in and almost scores. That's the play that got him down to the Philly special. Yeah. And also Jay Ajayi. I mean, he didn't really do a ton in that game, but he was the backup to LeGarrette Blount. And then obviously LeGarrette Blount.
He had 9 carries for 57 yards. He averaged 6.3. I got the box scores up in front of me here, I wasn't gonna not have my box scores ready to go here, He had 9 carries. He averaged 6.3 yards a carry that game. That's good.
1-2-3 punch, obviously, of Blount, Ajayi, and then Clement.
Talk about, running the ball, 27 carries for 164 yards in that game. Not too damn bad,
I mean, talk about a game that was full of yards. I mean, it was like
exactly. I mean, there was not much defense happened at the right moments, the strip sack and stuff like that. But let's be honest, there wasn't much defense played in that game. Not much real defense.
Yeah, it was like, didn't they set a record for Super Bowl?
I believe it was the most yards in the Super Bowl, yes.
And I don't know if that's been since broken.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
With the way these offenses are today, I could see that happening very quickly with like a Joe Burrow.
Absolutely, it could happen next week. So there's 2 reasons why I wanted to bring up the Super Bowl. Obviously, it's because it's the anniversary. Today's the day 4 years ago that we won our first Super Bowl, but also because Doug Pederson got hired finally as head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars yesterday. And today he's his first day on the job. Before we talk about him taking the Jaguars job, I want to talk about the importance of Doug Pederson on that team. Doug Pederson isn't the flashiest of head coaches. He's not known as the Sean McVay or Cliff Kingsbury offensive genius. He's not known as Bill Belichick, this, detail-oriented, super defensive-minded guru. He doesn't have a major pedigree, of anything. He was an offensive coordinator, with the Chiefs, didn't call plays. He really wasn't the most experienced coach. And we look back at Nick Sirianni's first year and some of his blunders and press conferences early on in his tenure and stuff. Doug Pederson, same exact kind of, career, start in Philly. He wasn't super successful his first year, 7-9, had a lot of struggles with press conferences and stuff like that. But man, He knows how to lead a locker room, and he led that locker room. He was as important, if not the most important person on Super Bowl Sunday and that playoff run. You lose your MVP quarterback, Carson Wentz, who was the MVP at that time when he went down in week, 13 or 14. He was the MVP of the league. And he was able to keep that team on track. He was able to keep that team focused on the goal. He was able to keep that team motoring forward. And the Falcons at the time, Matt Ryan was younger. He was still a really good, quarterback and all. You beat some really good teams in the playoffs. And then you go up against the greatest quarterback and coach of all time. And no wavering of your confidence whatsoever. Now, you want to call the Philly? Sure, let's do it. What do we got? We got this. The Philly was a great, successful, fun play. But the way when Nick Foles said, yo, can we run Philly? And the way Doug Pederson was so confidently like, yes, you want to do it? We got this. Like, there's no hesitation in his voice. And that, I think, is what sums up Doug Pederson and that season. And actually his coaching career here in general is the fact that the players buy into him and he buys into what the players, and it's a perfect formula of what works between players and coaches. I don't know what your thoughts are.
No, I mean, wow, you pretty much nailed that. I mean, when I think of Doug Pederson, I think of a leader of men. A man that's actually genuine towards his players and treats his players with kindness. Not that he, I saw Doug Pederson quite often kind of, get angry. So it wasn't like he was like some, passive, coach that just sat back and let people do it. That it was not Doug Pederson. I think a lot of times Doug Pederson gets, unfairly criticized, and I believe he was unfairly criticized even in this town during his tenure. I heard quite a few people always say, oh, well, it was Frank Reich that the reason was the one, the Super Bowl, and it was this one and that, it was that one, and yada, yada, yada. Like, at the end of the day, Doug Pederson was still the coach. Listen, everybody has a role. Like, I work in a supermarket, so you have a store manager, then you have 4 assistant store managers. It's the same thing in football. You have a coach, and then you have assistant coaches. Everybody has a role. If you're not all working as a team, that's when there's not success, when there's a lack of success. But when you are working as a team and everybody works for a common goal, that's when you win a Super Bowl. And that was what Doug Pederson did. He was a leader. He ran that team like to perfection. I mean, obviously, because if you looked at that team, it was a great team. Like, every player was good.
Yeah.
But they didn't have like it wasn't like some superstar roster like the Rams where they paid and they bought and they brought all these guys in. It was good players, but at the end of the day, they all bought into Doug Pederson's system and what he was trying to accomplish. And everyone made fun of him about the ice cream thing. I think it's funny. Like, that to me shows that he's a real guy. Like, I want that as my leader. I don't want somebody that plays the whole fake role, like where they don't show who they truly are outside of work. I want somebody that's a realist and brings that to the table. To me, I have more respect for that. And I think the players felt the same way about Doug Pederson. Like, the fact that he's a real guy and, he would try.
You used a key word there, respect. I want you to keep using that word. The respect there between him and his players. They respected each other. I think that's the key. 110% right there.
Yeah, I mean, even like the fact, like, I saw him cry in front of the team, like showing emotion. Like, people want that. Like, it's crazy how, like, a lot of times as human beings, we look at things like that and we say, oh, if you cry, it's a sign of weakness. When in reality, it's not. Like, showing emotion shows a real person. And as you said, people, I'll use the word again, respect. I respect somebody more when they show who they truly are, as opposed to somebody that's trying to put on a front and, try to play the part. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I 110% agree with you.
Just be real. And that's what Doug Pederson is. And like I said, was he like the best as far as talking and interviews. No, I mean, obviously he was kind of like a golly gee kind of guy. You know what I mean? Like, but remember, he came from the Doug Pederson. He came from the Andy Reid tree, and I remember when Doug Pederson came into the league, like the only coaching experience he had was like a high school.
Right.
Like, it's not like he went it's not like he played and then went and started coaching college like a lot of these guys do, where they get their kind of wings in the college ranks and then they come and work a couple assistant jobs in the NFL. I mean, you're talking a guy that literally only really was assistant under Andy, and that's it. So to me, that shows that he was able to come in after just having that much little experience and win a Super Bowl. I'll always treasure that. And obviously, a lot of people turned on Doug in this town and
fast and unjustly fast.
Yeah, because I mean, but that just shows you it's what have you done lately? And it's a what have you done lately culture. I mean, that's the culture we're living in.
Yeah,
and
not for NFL. It stands for not for long. You don't get 10, which is crazy because Mike Tomlin has been in Pittsburgh now for how many years?
I know.
Over a decade, and he hasn't won a Super Bowl in how long? And no, if I don't want to bring the race topic back into conversation this week. We spent a lot of time this week talking about all that, but for the short leash that black coaches get in the NFL, Mike Tomlin has gotten a very long leash there in Pittsburgh, and he's going to get an even longer leash because Ben Roethlisberger retiring. He's going to be given the time to help develop the next regime there in Pittsburgh, and then if that doesn't work out, then maybe they move on from him. But yeah, I mean, the NFL does not give you a very long time anymore. You win a Super Bowl and 2 years later you're out of the league. But let's talk about Doug Pederson going to Jacksonville. An atrocious team. They had the number 1 pick last year. They got Trevor Lawrence. They got Juice Robinson, a great young running back. But the cupboard's pretty bare outside of that. They got the number 1 overall pick this year. They probably should get somebody to protect Trevor Lawrence. Get that left tackle he's a right tackle, whatever, because he's a lefty quarterback, isn't he? No, he's a righty. I don't even know. I don't watch much Jacksonville Jaguars football. But what are your thoughts on him taking that job and such a raw young team? And, do you think, I actually think he will, but do you think Khan, the owner of the Jaguars, will give Doug Pederson the time? We say not for long. It's going to take 3 or 4 years to really turn that franchise around.
I don't necessarily believe it'll take that long, especially when you see what he did with the Eagles. Because if you looked at that Eagles franchise, you could be saying the same thing. They were really bad when Doug came in, and nobody ever expected the Eagles to have that success in that much, that less time. Now, with that being said, Howie Roseman went out that year and got GM of the year for all the signings and trades and roster changes he made. So I would look this year as being an important year for what Khan does as far as letting, the GM, make some roster moves, because I don't know how much money they have. I'm not a cap wizard and I don't look at all those numbers, but if they have a good amount of money, they could really improve the team quickly, but it's all depending on the moves that they make. Now, if you look at the quarterback that he's inheriting, obviously Trevor Lawrence is still raw, and he had a horrible season. Now, but
just real quick to cut you off, I just did a Google search there. The Jags are projected, according to Sport Track or whatever it's called, $70.7 million in cap space this upcoming year.
Okay, so
that's a lot of cap space right there. $70+ million in cap space.
Okay, so kind of that makes my point. Then
that absolutely makes your point.
Hit on some of these signings, they could get better quick. I mean, because they have the quarterback. Now, you want to make all the comparisons in the world. Like, obviously, Carson Wentz was the number 2 draft, pick in the draft the year the Eagles got him, right? Trevor Lawrence was the number 1 pick. Now, Trevor Lawrence, coming out of college, was kind of bandied around as being a generational, quote unquote, quarterback. Now, I don't know if he's necessarily a generational quarterback. I did watch him in college. In college, he was amazing, phenomenal. I was always higher on Joe Burrow just because I saw Joe Burrow having a quality that I don't see Trevor Lawrence have. And that's the moxie and that, winning attitude and leadership. And like, I don't want to say cockiness, but like the way he commands the field. Like, I don't see Trevor Lawrence having that same thing. Now, that being said, he still has a pedigree. He was drafted number 1. So what he can become, obviously, he's nowhere near his ceiling.
Right.
He obviously was on a bad team with a terrible coach. I mean, that can hurt a quarterback because let's face it, not every quarterback comes out and has a year like Pat Mahomes in year 1. Like,
are you saying something to Eagles fans right there with that comment?
Pat Mahomes.
I think you're making a subtle dig at the Hurts haters out there.
Well, it could be.
I think I heard a little.
Pat Mahomes.
It was a subtweet.
Pat Mahomes rode the pine for what? All but 4 games. I think he played the last 4 games of this first season. So you got to give Trevor Lawrence a little bit of time to develop. Absolutely. I think Doug Pederson is the perfect coach for that to happen on there because Doug Pederson was a quarterback. Yeah. Doug Pederson was listen, love him or hate him, love Wentz, hate Wentz. Wentz had his best season under Doug Pederson in year 2. Right. I mean, he thrived. So you could say all you want. You could say it was Frank Reich, whatever you want to say. Doug Pederson was the coach in place when Carson Wentz had an MVP type season. So could he do that with Trevor Lawrence? Absolutely.
So I got an interesting stat here. My boy Chris Romanelli, I've had him on the show before. He's an Eagles season ticket holder. He's on their advisory board. And I had said earlier in the week, I had put out a tweet saying, I can't believe Jacksonville hasn't hired Doug Pederson. I thought they were going to hire Doug Pederson before the season was out and just have him sitting up in the press box, evaluating the team from the get-go. I thought that Trevor Lawrence, Doug Pederson, I thought it was a perfect combo to start reshaping a franchise. So I put that tweet out there earlier this week. It was actually on January 31st. And Chris responded me with this. And I don't know if did you see Chris's response to my tweet?
I didn't.
Okay. So I'm going to name you 8 names, okay? And can you tell me what they all have in common, okay? Bill Parcells, Mike Holmgren, Dick Vermeil, Jim Johnson, Mike Shanahan, George Seifert, John Gruden, and Gibbs. Gibbs, Gruden, Seifert, Shanahan, Johnson, Vermeil, Holmgren, Parcells. What do they all have in common? They have 2 things in common.
Coaches that won a Super Bowl in their first 10 years of coaching.
Well, coaches that won a Super Bowl and then left that job and went somewhere else and never were able to win a Super Bowl.
Okay.
My point was, because my tweet was, how a Super Bowl winning head coach hasn't gotten a job yet. And then Chris responded with this tweet that all these guys won a Super Bowl. Vermeil was in his second tenure when he won his Super Bowl because he won it with the Rams, not the Eagles. The other guys won it in their first tenure as a head coach. And then they went elsewhere after it and were never able to recapture the glory and win another Super Bowl. Is that not insane to think?
And his point is that
no Super Bowl winning coach has ever been able to win another Super Bowl with another team.
So his point is that that's why teams are shying away from that. Is that what he was saying?
Yeah, he's trying to say that maybe teams are realizing that it's hard for a coach to recapture the glory that they had with the first team because they tried. I think what my thought process after I read that, and thought about it was that, Doug Pederson, we'll just use him for example. What worked in Philly might not work in Jacksonville, but that might be his only way of doing things. And he might not be able to adjust, and have a different style of coaching, a different style of play calling, whatever it may be. And there's a strong track record. I mean, some of these names that I named, these are Hall of Fame. Bill Parcells, Mike Holmgren, these are legendary coaches. John Gruden is what he is, but Gibbs, great head coach. So
yeah, but I think there's
really an interesting thought there.
No, I definitely think there's something to that, but it's just now it's very interesting, and now you got my mind going with this because I'm thinking okay, so what if the GOAT, just say Bill Belichick, soured on the relationship with Kraft, right?
Yeah.
And say he went elsewhere.
Sure, thought that could happen.
Well, and so just say he went elsewhere. Could he recap? Honestly, that's a good question because I think sometimes everything has to be right. Everything comes together. And it's like all the stars align, and you wonder if you go to a different like situation, if it'll ever be exactly that same situation. Because you're right, like certain styles work with certain teams, and
then here, listen, and then he goes on to follow it that it's better to hire a coach that hasn't won, because look at these coaches: Bill Belichick, Andy Reid, Pete Carroll, Don Shula, Kubiak, Gruden, because Gruden didn't win in his first one, he won in his second tenure, then lost in his third. Dungy, Coughlin, all won Super Bowls in their second tenure, second place that they were head coach. So sometimes it's better to find a coach that lost, which is crazy. Like somebody like Todd Bowles hasn't gotten a second chance at head coach. Jim Caldwell hasn't gotten another chance. It's crazy to think that kind of a stat really exists.
Well,
am I trying to say Doug Pederson isn't going to win another Super Bowl as a head coach? I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that the trend and the track record says the odds aren't in his favor of winning another Super Bowl in Jacksonville.
Yeah, I mean, that theory is it kind of makes sense to me for one reason. Players, coaches that lose. When you lose, especially a Super Bowl, it kind of like initiates that hunger to want to win and overcome that loss. Like sometimes you have to embrace losing and embrace the pain to actually end up winning. And I think a lot of times that's why maybe coaches that win it early don't ever win it, because they don't have that taste of defeat where it almost like makes you better. Like I don't know how to explain it, because I've never played in professional sports, but I know, and I hear people like I said, read Nick Foles' book. Like I know you haven't read it yet. Read it. He talks about that, embracing like pain and how that helped him win the Super Bowl, and embracing all that turmoil of like being traded away and then coming back to the Eagles. Like,
right.
Remember when he went to the Rams, it was horrible. He did bad, and they got rid of him. So there's something about that theory of like, when you lose, it actually helps you win. Like,
but when you win, sometimes you get a little too confident, and then you can't win again. I don't know. I literally, when Chris sent me that tweet and that list of names, and said that, it just blew my mind. I'm like, man, I've been thinking about this wrong the whole time. I've been way off this whole time. And I was like, I can't believe that that's actually the way it has played out. But anyway, I wish Doug Pederson, Nick Foles, basically anyone from that roster, from 4 years ago, anybody that played for the Philadelphia Eagles 4 years ago today will be a legend in this city forever. And I hope, I wish and I hope for nothing but success for Doug Pederson. My dream is to move to Florida. You know what? If I move to Florida, as long as he's still the coach of the Jaguars, I'll probably become a Jaguars fan, if I live anywhere near there. Just because, how can you not root for Doug Pederson? The guy is just a class act human being. So I wish nothing but success for him. I really do. Yeah,
I'm the same. I mean, if there's anybody out there that deserves another shot, it's him. I mean, to win a Super Bowl in year 2 as a head coach and then be out of a job, it's like unfathomable to me. And especially considering he's such a good guy. Like, listen, whether he wins or not, as far as with the Jaguars, is obviously yet to be seen, and obviously that piece of history will be written.
Like I said, you say it could be pretty quickly. I think it's going to determine his success with the Jaguars, how much of a leash he's given. If he's given 4 years before he even has to worry about being fired, then I think he can have success there. Because, I know the Eagles, he turned the Eagles around pretty quickly, but there were some foundational pieces on that team already. Lane Johnson, Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, they had some key pieces in some key places already, and they got, Carson Wentz. He's got Trevor Lawrence, but that offensive line and that defense in general is just bare cupboard right now in Jacksonville. I know they have a lot of cap space. They got the first overall pick, but I mean, it's also the Eagles were a winning franchise. Say what you will about Chip Kelly, say what you will about Andy Reid, but they had winning records most of the seasons in Philly. So it was a winning franchise that was just down on its luck for a short period of time. Jacksonville's had what, one playoff run in their entire, last 20 years. They went from Mark Brunell till what's his name a couple years ago that took them their last quarterback that they drafted. Who was it? The guy I can't believe he was just signed to be a backup again for Tampa. I forget. Anyway, the fact Jacksonville has just been an atrocious organization for so long that he needs time to not just rebuild the team, but rebuild the culture, rebuild the energy of the fan base. There's so much rebuilding to do in Jacksonville. He needs to be given the time to get that success turned around there.
I mean, I agree. At least the one good thing is, though, they do have at least the quarterback. They think. They do, yes. Is he gonna be generational? I don't know, but you can't tell me that.
As long as he plays Carson Wentz level, that's good enough.
Well, I think he's better than Carson Wentz.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm just. As long as Carson Wentz good, that's enough to start turning the franchise.
And that's
around.
what I mean. Yeah. I think he's obviously got at least that. They don't have to worry about going out and drafting that. So now they have the number one pick in the draft. To me, I would go after the defensive guy. I would go after Hutchinson. Now, I know you said get it. They have multiple picks. Yeah. I think you get an offensive lineman even in free agency if you really need to go that route.
Yeah, I go after
the game changer. I mean, that's what I wish the Eagles
we've talked about. That's what we've talked about is that all these teams in the playoffs have game changers on the end that disrupt the backfield on every single play. So, yeah, absolutely. All right, so real quick, I want to talk a little bit more football here, and then we got to talk a little basketball as well. So this weekend, Sunday, is the Pro Bowl. Jason Kelce withdrew his name from the Pro Bowl. He was voted Pro Bowl, and he's not playing in it. And I was coming on here to bash the Pro Bowl and how pointless the Pro Bowl is. But then before the show, I read an article that was on ESPN about how important the Pro Bowl is to first-timers, to the Justin Herberts of the world and stuff like that. To be voted in as a Pro Bowl player means a lot to the younger guys. So I don't want to totally bash the Pro Bowl. But I have to say, in my opinion, the Pro Bowl is my least favorite of the four major sports all-star games. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you dislike one of the other ones better? Or,
I agree. To me, this is my ranking.
Yeah.
Baseball.
Least favorite to favorite.
Least favorite to favorite? Okay, so least favorite, NFL.
Yep.
Hands down.
Agreed.
Second least favorite is basketball.
Okay.
I like the skills competition.
Right.
Third least favorite, NHL. I mean, second
least favorite, yes.
We did this weird.
All right, your favorite. Yeah, I made you go back.
No, I'm sorry. It was NFL, NHL, basketball, baseball.
Baseball's your favorite. Basketball's your second
baseball
favorite.
All-Star game.
I like basketball, but only the fourth quarter because they actually take it really seriously in the fourth quarter. So yeah, I probably rank baseball as my favorite just because I love seeing all the elite pitchers going up against the elite hitters. Because they don't take the game seriously per se, but you still want to hit a home run against that pitcher, and that pitcher
the most realistic.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
The baseball All-Star game is the most kind of realistic thing as far as the All-Star games.
And basketball, the fourth quarter. If you watch a basketball All-Star game, the first three quarters, it's just layups and three-point shots. But when they get to the fourth quarter, all of a sudden defense starts playing, and they actually start caring and stuff like that.
I agree. That's why I said basketball
hockey
too.
Third, yeah, hockey third.
No, now here's where I am with hockey. Hockey skills competition is awesome. Like, watching that is kind of really fun.
Right.
Like, I think
all the skills positions and all or competitions in all the sports are better than the games themselves.
Home run
derby, yeah. Actually, I like the 3-point contest better than the slam dunk contest because more stars show up for the 3-point contest than the slam dunk contest. Football. Let me tell you something. A little history of me. Grew up in Seacane. It's a little town in Delaware County. Doesn't even have its own post office. Okay. Me and my brother had in our yard set up an NFL quarterback challenge competition. Where we could play the quarterback challenge from the skills competition in our backyard. And we had deep bombs. We had targets all over the place. We had everything.
Dude.
And that was literally, I looked for it. The ESPN 2 back in the 90s, they would show all summer long replays of the quarterback challenge. And any day that was on TV, we'd be back in our backyard. Actually, we had it set up in our front yard, the quarterback challenge. We'd be in the front yard hitting those targets with the football every single day because it was so much fun. We didn't want to play football. We didn't want to be in the Pro Bowl. We wanted to be at the quarterback challenge. That's where we wanted to be.
Okay, dude, you just see that this is why I love this show, because I'm always finding out new things about you and I that are the same. So Aaron, my co-host from Sports and Metal,
yeah,
we used to, growing up when we were like 10, 11 years old, where I lived in my yard, I had a pretty big front yard. And then at the end of the front yard, at like right where my yard ended and the road was the power lines.
Mm-hmm.
We used to play home run hitting contests. So the home run was hit the ball over the power lines. We would actually have a notebook, and we saved every home run that we ever hit, and at each day that we did it. Like, and we modeled it after obviously the home run contest. So like we would even like fake the swings. Like I would do like, you know, Mark McGuire.
My favorite swings to mimic as a kid were Ricky Jordan. Don't ask me why, but I loved Ricky Jordan and his swing. And of course, Lenny Dykstra, you know, / Ken Griffey Jr. I actually could hit a baseball when I was a kid, both lefty and righty. Well, I couldn't hit a baseball. I could hit a wiffle ball or a stick ball or whatever you want to call it. I could hit that left-handed if I wanted to. But yeah. So anyway, back to the Pro Bowl and stuff like that. You know, so I want to say that it's useless and it's pointless. I won't be watching it on Sunday. It won't hit my TV on Sunday. You know, is there a way to change the perception of the Pro Bowl? Do you miss it being after the Super Bowl? Do you like it being this week in between the champion? You know, because Freddie Defoe's saying something to do between conference and Super Bowl. Yeah, but then you eliminate Joe Burrow's not playing this weekend. Cooper Kupp's not there this weekend. You know, Jamar Chase isn't there this weekend. You know, do you move it back to after the Super Bowl? Do you try to find a strategy to change it up? I don't know.
Here's where I'm at. An answer. And this is why I think the baseball All-Star game is still number one out of all of them. Because baseball's played in the middle of the season.
Right.
And it has the winner of that game now gets actually an advantage for the playoffs. Like if your team makes the playoffs.
Did they do away with that?
No, I believe it's still there.
Okay. I think it's stupid. I hate that.
Okay. But it gives you an incentive to play. I think the problem with these games is that there's no incentive for the athletes to perform to the norm. Now, I get it with the NFL that it would be extremely hard to have it mid-season because of injuries. I get that.
They did away with that meaning in 2018. It doesn't mean anything now, the Major League Baseball.
All right, that's fine. But
yeah, I had to double check for our listeners. I don't want to put out fake information. You know, we're not the fake news here. You know, I had to fact check you there real quick.
That's fine. But even having it mid-season, like I said, it makes it, you know, players are still playing for something. Like obviously they did away with that rule, but I don't think football, you couldn't do it mid-season, but I definitely think, I agree with you. I think they should move it to after the Super Bowl because then Cooper Kupps might play. Like you're missing out on all these guys that are like superstars. Jamar Chase, like who wouldn't want to see him in an all-star game? Like,
yeah, absolutely. In a skills competition, you know,
Justin Jefferson, these guys are like amazing.
Yeah. I mean, so yeah, I don't know. I just don't get excited. I mean, I'll watch the skills competitions. I'll watch the celebrity games. You know, I'm sure football is like a celebrity flag football game, probably just like they have the celebrity basketball game and the celebrity, you know, softball game, you know, for baseball, all that stuff. They do so well, all these sports, with all the other things around the All-Star games, but they don't put that energy into the All-Star game itself. And but then, like I said, I was ready to bash it, but then I kind of saw this article about how much it means to people, you know, and I'm like, well, it actually kind of made a really good point. And it also, you know, it means a lot to their bonuses and their contracts, making these Pro Bowls and All-Star games. So that's an aspect of it that they can't do away with these All-Star games and these festivities. But I still, you know, if it meant something, there's no way Jason Kelce would have pulled out of the game. I know he had some nagging injuries and stuff like that. It's time to get ready for the offseason and, you know, making that decision whether he's playing next year or not. But if it meant something this game, he would be playing in it.
I agree.
And that's my problem right there.
Yeah. Like I said, man, I think it's a farce. It's been a farce for a long time. I probably, the last time I watched a Pro Bowl, Dude, this is crazy. You're going back to like probably the late 80s.
Right.
Maybe
I couldn't tell
like
you.
I think their last Pro Bowl that I watched, and I don't know if this guy was even playing in the late 80s, but the guy from the Chiefs, he was a running back, a real big guy, Okoye.
Okoye,
Okoye.
Christian Okoye.
I don't know how far back that is, but that might be the last Pro Bowl that I watched.
Yeah.
That's how much I like the Pro Bowl.
Yeah,
I'm 45 now.
It's a waste. It's a waste of time. But yeah, exactly. Like I said, the quarterback challenge was always my favorite part of it. I still remember, the big tree at the other end of our yard, and we had a bucket in our backyard, and the final challenge for like the bonus 50 points, throwing the ball over the house and trying to land it in the bucket in the backyard.
Who won?
I won every sport that we played growing up, me and my brother. He said it was because I was bigger, stronger, and 3 years older than him. But I said, the age is nothing but a number, man. You can't use that as an excuse. He used to always say I would cheat at basketball. And my way of cheating was because I was 3 inches taller than him. So that meant I was cheating. And I was like, yeah, no, man. You got to take advantage of your size if you got it, man. We used to play wiffle ball in our backyard. We had a big backyard, a fenced-in backyard. You had to hit it over the fence for a home run. And we would play 25-inning baseball games every single day in our backyard. Just one-on-one, ghost runners, and we had a whole rule. We would track home runs. We would track win-losses. And I would win pretty much every single game. And I would hit about 150 home runs every single summer. He would hit like 30 home runs every summer. And he would say I was cheating every single time too. Oh, you put too much curve on that ball. I'm like, whoa. Curveballs are legal in baseball. Curveballs are legal in baseball in the backyard too. So,
Dude, I wish I could find that notebook. I probably definitely got rid of that, like, in the moves.
My brother said he found we had our own fantasy baseball league, like just head to head, where we would track it in notebooks. We'd pick players and we'd track their stats from the box scores. And he said he found one of our old fantasy baseball notebooks from like the late 80s, early 90s, when he was moving into his new house with his wife and kid and stuff like that. I'm like, I got to see that. I got to see what we were doing back then and everything.
They're like artifacts, dude.
Yeah, they are artifacts. They're a part of history. But there's no crying when he complained, but there was no crying when I beat him. And that's a transition to the next topic, and that's crying in basketball. So we all saw, I played last week when Shaquille O'Neal just laid into Ben Simmons. About being lazy and the crybaby. He was complimenting Joel Embiid, and he never actually said Ben Simmons' name. He just kept saying, and that other guy, which we all knew he was talking about Ben Simmons. And I don't know if do you know where I'm going with this topic? Did you see the reports? So Shaquille O'Neal on his podcast, I think I had it up here. What's the name of his podcast here? The Big Podcast. Really creative name for the big piece there, Shaquille O'Neal. The Big Podcast. He came out yesterday and said that after that whole rant on Ben Simmons and basically calling him out, he went in and said that Ben Simmons DM'd him complaining about him going off on him. I don't even have anything to say. Like, what the hell is wrong with Ben Simmons to think that you're going to go and jump into Shaq's DMs, just like you should jump in all those girls' DMs, and call him out for calling you out on the air, doing his job as an analyst? I mean, I need you to talk, because I don't even know how to talk about this situation.
I mean, Ben Simmons, to me, you know where I'm standing with it. Like, the guy is just softer than a baby's ass. Like, honestly, he obviously worries more about his ego than playing basketball. That's a fact. If he wanted to get better and wanted to be traded, he would keep his mouth shut. Absolutely. He would stop all this nonsense and stop being such a baby about things and be a man. Okay? And you can call it what it is. He's obviously got some issues. There's issues with Ben Simmons, like deep inlying issues, like, because normal people don't react this way. Normal people would say, "What? Screw what Shaq said. I don't even need," like, that's how a normal person would be. This guy, like, he's got to have attention. Why do you think he's going on these other podcasts and having the interview with Ramona Shelburne and all this nonsense? Like, he needs attention. The guy is a problem. And it's just mind-boggling to me that a person that has his talent would waste it in this manner. And I just laugh about it. I think it's funny, and I'm glad that Shaq pissed him off. I'm glad he's mad. I don't care if Ben Simmons is mad. I'm glad he's mad. You know why? Because I could care less. The way that the guys acted towards everybody, like it's obvious he has a vendetta against the fans, the players, and the team. He can't stand Embiid. And then I saw a tweet from Embiid last night. I thought that he was tweeting about Ben Simmons, but then
he was absolutely tweeting about Ben Simmons. There's no way that was not part of it there. There was a little bit of a there's multiple meanings to that tweet right there. I'm reading some of the Shaq transcript right now. He's acting like a baby, and he got in my DMs. He said some things, I said some things, but all I said was that you're leaving your man out there by himself to play. Just go play. And then he goes on to say he's probably mad because they're both LSU brothers, and he thought that Shaq would stand up for him since he's an LSU boy. But obviously, Shaq just calls it the way it is. Shaq, let's be honest. Shaq, one of the greatest basketball players of all time. He was, a cheesy actor. Gets involved in wrestling from time to time. He literally sponsors any product. If we paid him enough money, he would give a shout out to DSM Media. He will literally hawk anything, for the right money. And, his NBA analysis on TNT has been there for a while. At first, him and Charles Barkley were kind of they were there because they were former NBA players, but they were there for the comedic relief, the bickering that they would do. But both of them, Shaq specifically, in the last year or two, if you don't watch the TNT pregame shows and postgame shows and halftime shows, you really should. The TNT announcers for in-games are not very good, but that pregame and postgame show, Irv Johnson, they do a great job. And Shaquille O'Neal has grown so much as an analyst on that show and on that platform there. Like, literally, when he talks, I shut up and I listen. And that's what Ben Simmons needs to do. Just shut up and listen. Every time Ben Simmons talks, whether it's to Ramona Shelburne, whether it's in Shaq's DMs, all he's doing is hurting his reputation even more. You tell me, if the Sixers trade Ben Simmons, wherever it is, Washington, Sacramento, Indiana, Cleveland, a million teams still want him because he's still a talented basketball player. You're telling me that locker room's going to welcome him with open arms? There's going to be some trepidation in those locker rooms. Yeah, they're going to welcome his talent, his defensive talent, and all that stuff. But man, you got to think that whatever team he goes to next, there's going to be some trepidation in that locker room. There's going to be some hesitancy to really trust that man in that locker room.
I can't believe in a year's time how much Ben Simmons has went from being like having like a cult following of fans that protected him to the hill.
I did.
So did I.
I did. I still got my Ben Simmons shirt. I haven't burned it or anything like that yet.
Yeah, well, I can't believe so. It's come from that to now. I don't really see one person protecting him, or even those diehard, devil's advocate type people are not protecting him. They're like, at this point, it's like, dude, what can you further say about it? The guy is
I don't know if you heard. I think it was on Angelo yesterday. One of the WIP shows. John Calipari called in and was being interviewed. They brought him in because of Tyrese Maxey and the trade. I brought it up yesterday. Would you include Tyrese Maxey with Ben Simmons in the right deal, whether it's Bradley Beal or whatever? And they brought John Calipari on to talk about Tyrese Maxey because he played for him in college. And Calipari went on to say that he spoke with Doc Rivers specifically about Tyrese Maxey because he's really close with Tyrese Maxey still. And Doc Rivers basically said, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't have the quote in front of me, that no, we're not trading Tyrese Maxey. So that's one part of that conversation. The other part that's bringing back to Ben Simmons was that John Calipari said Ben Simmons just needs to go somewhere and be traded somewhere where the coach and the team are going to baby him. When somebody like John Calipari, one of the greatest college coaches, say what you will about him personally, but he's a great college coach, failed in the pros, great college coach at multiple different programs. When John Calipari is saying you need to go somewhere where you could be babied as a professional athlete, I think that says a lot about your personality.
Yeah, it's sad. We saw with Brett Brown obviously being a friend of the family. Right. That was the coach that we had. What if that didn't tell you something? Then I don't know what does.
That's not going to work. What is going to work?
Yeah, because really, he was realistically allowed to do whatever he wanted and not get better and not work on his shot and basically just show up because he's Ben Simmons. And I think that's part of the problem. I think he's entitled. I think he's spoiled.
Absolutely.
He's a spoiled brat. He's basically,
he's never been put in a position where he's told go. He's never been held accountable. He's never been put in a position. He was coached by his dad. He was the best player in high school. At LSU, he just was kind of babied around there. And then he comes here and like you said, Brett Brown babying him as, his dad's friend is his coach. The guy's never been held accountable. And now he's being held accountable. And look what he's sticking his tail between his legs and he's hiding. It's like a dog when he gets in trouble for eating trash out of the trash can and you yell at him and he goes tucks that tail and goes and hides in the bedroom. That's what Ben Simmons is basically doing right now. He's like a disappointed dog that you yelled at him. And it's
who's his latest girlfriend? Does he have a new one?
He's engaged now, I think, to his most recent Instagram model or whatever. I don't follow all that social media and dating life of these athletes. I couldn't tell you.
Well, I think he's worried more about his dating life than playing basketball. That's
but you know what? I don't get upset about that stuff because these guys have to have lives. Athletes have to have lives outside of the sport. They have to have hobbies outside the sport. So I don't let that really influence my opinions on these people. But you're right. I mean, it's the fact that he has a professional following him to post Instagram pictures and videos of him. It's not like he's hanging out with friends and taking selfies. He's got a professional following him, taking pictures at all times to post these perfect pictures at all times. That's the problem I have because he cares about his image in that sense. He's very vain. He wants to look cool and look perfect all the time versus actually performing well. But yeah, that's another whole subject right there. Ego is right.
He's got to feed the ego.
Man, I feel bad. George said he wasn't going to be able to watch live today. He'll probably catch the show later. But he gave me an interesting topic to talk about earlier in the week, and I've had it on the agenda every single day this week. But every single day this week, I get to the 58-minute mark, and I'm like, damn, I didn't get to George's topic. So we're going to save it. It's going to be in the back pocket still, for another episode there because I think it's an interesting conversation and an interesting topic to talk about. But we'll get to. I mean, if anybody's listening and wants to check it out, check out the Inside the Birds podcast from earlier this week. Jeff Mosher and Adam Caplan. They spoke with Spielman, the former GM of the Minnesota Vikings, and a lot of the interview and talk was about Jonathon Gannon and Jalen Reagor. And there's some really interesting tidbits about those two guys in the interview. So check it out and listen to it. Inside the Birds, Mosher and Caplan this week with Spielman as their guest. Some interesting things, and I'll try my best to bring it up next week and carve out a little time for that there. You got anything else going on this week there, Jason? This weekend, any shows coming up?
I believe we have Drunk on Ice tonight, and then Sports and Metal will be tomorrow because Aaron is out of town tonight. So,
okay. So make sure you're following Sports and Metal, and of course, just follow Jason at Mustang3651. That's how you'll find it all. Sixers are on the road tonight, against Dallas, another good team. We'll see how they do on their first road game in a while. We got lots going on. Everybody have a great weekend. This is Trending in the AM right here on DSM Media, wrapping another week. Again, a special thank you to everybody that supports this show, everybody that tunes in, shares out the show, gives us those thumbs up on YouTube. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at DSM Media. We can't continue to grow the show without your support. And like I said, this has been one of our best weeks ever of doing this show viewership-wise and following-wise. And I can't thank everybody enough. And like I said, I can't thank Jason enough for being a partner with me on this. I can't thank Mark enough. Mark will be back on Monday for Overreaction Monday. I can't thank these guys enough. I can't do this alone. And these guys are right there with me on this journey. So, again, thank you to everybody that's being a part of this day, this show, this week, this movement that I'm trying to start. And hopefully you continue on this journey with us. And, again, let's remember a couple things today. Today, 4 years ago, where were you? Super Bowl champions, we could say for the first time. And, of course, like I said, today is World Cancer Day. Make sure you think about that a little bit because it's such a big issue still affecting this country and this world. We all have people that have been affected in some way with cancer. So make sure you're thinking about those people and the loved ones that have been lost to that. Like I said, my father is the one closest to me that I think about on a daily basis from that. So everybody have a great day, a great weekend. If you want to watch the Pro Bowl, great. If not, catch up on the Ozarks like I will. I don't know about that, Murphy. I don't want to talk bad about Nick Sirianni. Doug Pederson did get the raw end of the deal. But, yeah, we're wrapping up the show there for today. Everybody have a great day. Jason, thank you very much. At Mustang 3651, I am Phil Stifle at Beard and Knowledge. And as we end every show,
Go Birds.
Go Birds!